Hello guys, what's up? It is Zuri, aka the Diamond Ore Creeper here, and this is a video that I am going to make about the nuance of the term vanilla in Minecraft. In the past, Simply Sarc has made a really good video on this topic, and I will be linking to his video in the description. However, I would like to touch on some things that he did not touch on, and have a video of my own to reference whenever I mention things regarding the various definitions of vanilla in my own videos. So, in this video, I'm going to be using the terms jar and world a lot. So, in Minecraft files up here, the actual world that you play in is the world. So this is the blocks and the entities and all that, everything that is around you. In this world, there's not much, there's just what you see, and this is the world file. Then there's also the jar file, and this is the code that actually runs the game. So what I mean by this is that this is the code that allows this game to function. It goes in, it reads what blocks are where, it creates this world, and it makes everything in the game work the way it does. Now, it is possible for this jar to be modified to make it not vanilla, but have the world still be vanilla. However, it's not possible in the other order. You cannot have a non-vanilla world with a vanilla jar. It would then convert, it would either break the world, the game would crash, or it would convert it all back to a vanilla world. So, I'm going to use my player head here to represent spots on this spectrum that I've built, where this area here on the left represents vanilla, and this area here on the right represents modded Minecraft, and in the middle we have the various levels of nuance that I'm going to talk about. So, firstly, we have what is considered generally the purest form of Minecraft, which is vanilla survival. And this is a non-modified jar, a non-modified map, in survival without the use of commands. Moving on, when I move down one of these columns, that means that I still consider it generally just as vanilla as everything else, or just as not vanilla. It's in this same category, but as we move down a row, it just becomes very slightly less vanilla. And here, one level below survival, which is sort of the purest form of the gameplay, we have creative. So there are some things that you can do in creative mode that cannot be done in survival, but nothing that you can build requires a modified jar nor a modified world to run. For example, in creative, you can place end portal frames anywhere you want, and you cannot do this in survival. So, in the next column, we have the use of commands and command blocks. Here, we have the ability to do lots of things that are not possible in survival, creative, but they still don't modify the jar or the world file in any way. And here's why I put this category in this column as opposed to in the first column. If you saw a YouTube video entitled Simple Wireless Redstone in Vanilla Minecraft, and there are actually ways to do wireless redstone in vanilla Minecraft in 1.8.9 and some prior versions, but back to the point. If you saw a YouTube video with that title, Simple Wireless Redstone in Vanilla Minecraft, and upon watching the YouTube video, it used command blocks. Let's say you push a button on a command block and it places a redstone block somewhere else in the world, and this block activates some redstone. You would be disappointed, or at least I would. And it is technically vanilla. However, it feels wrong. And so here's where I'm actually going to bring up an important distinction. There is a very clear definition of what vanilla is in Minecraft. Vanilla simply means non-modified jars, non-modified world files. Nothing in the world that you couldn't do in vanilla using a vanilla jar and a non-modified jar. However, there's another important question, which is what's ethical under the name vanilla? If you make a YouTube video, for example, in vanilla Minecraft, where you say simple wireless redstone in vanilla Minecraft, and it uses command blocks, it is definitely vanilla. Whether it's ethical to say that, to call the video that, because it implies something else, it's somewhat misleading, is another question. Moving on, we get to the first area of the spectrum that gets really complicated, which is this middle area. And this area of the spectrum has three sections. The reason I decided to put these next few in this specific category is because this is the first area of the game where people might say that something is cheating. In the prior version, with the example that I used with command blocks, potentially it could be misleading depending using the title of vanilla, but in this section people might consider it unethical or cheating. So here we have, firstly, the use of snapshots that are no longer available. So what do I mean by this? So for those of you that do not know, snapshots are work-in-progress releases of the game that the developers have put out as a preview of features that will be in a full release of the game. Snapshots aren't full releases like 1.7, 1.8, 1.9. They're not even miniature updates like 1.8.1, 1.8.3, 1.8.9. They are jars that you need to manually select in the Minecraft launcher, and when these versions are released, they always begin with an A version. So the naming convention for snapshots is to use an example, 15W31A, where 15 refers to the year, 2015, W stands for week, so week 31, and then A, where the A refers to the fact that it's the first version of this snapshot, and if they release another version of the same week's snapshot, they might release a B or a C version. But if a B or a C version is released, it replaces the older versions, the A or the B version, in the Minecraft launcher, so those versions are no longer available. Except that you can download these older snapshots from the internet and then manually add them into your Minecraft world. And then you can use them the way you would any normal jar. And since it's technically an official release of Minecraft, it's still vanilla. But the reason that some might consider this unethical is because of the reason that B and C versions of snapshots replace the older A version, and that is possibly to remove bugs or glitches. Sometimes the developers just want to continue adding more features, but for the most part, when they release a B or a C version of a snapshot, it's because there were major bugs or glitches in an A version, and they wanted to make it so that the user no longer had access to that A version because they fixed the bugs. So, if you use these releases that sometimes the developers no longer want you to be able to use, is it cheating? Moving on, we get something slightly more complicated. Here, we have the concept of reverting to older jar files. So, in 1.8.9, which is the version of Minecraft that I'm making this in, if I want to be able to hold bedrock items in my hand and place them down wherever I want in vanilla survival, I can't do it. Except, there is one way of doing this. In very old versions of the game, extremely old, in dev, you could mine bedrock and it would drop as a normal item. So, if I took a 1.8.9 world that I had already started playing in, exited the game, and reopened the world in an in-dev jar, mined some of the bedrock, exited the game again, and then reopened the world again back in 1.8.9, I would be able to hold that bedrock in my hand and place it just like a normal block. Is this cheating? Finally, at the bottom of this extremely complicated, probably the most complicated category on this spectrum, we have joke versions of the game. So what do I mean by joke versions? Sometimes, for events like April Fool's Day, Mojang will release joke versions of the game, like Minecraft 2.0, but they won't release them to the public. Usually they just release them to selected YouTubers. But like all versions of the game, you can download them on the internet if you know the right places to look. And there are things that you can do in these versions that you cannot do in the normal, or rather other jars of the game, real official releases of the game. One example was in Minecraft 2.0, there were droppers that you could put anything into them, but they would always dispense raw fish. They would convert whatever you put into them into raw fish. There were also blue chickens that instead of laying eggs, would lay diamonds and lapis. Next, we move on to this column, which is significantly less complicated than the last one. Third-party tools. These are tools like MCEdit that naturally modify the world file, but don't change the jar. So these allow you to do things like create custom mob spawners and things like that you cannot do in vanilla. You cannot do them in survival, you cannot do them in creative, and you cannot do them with command blocks. However, when you use tools, third-party tools like MCEdit, and create them, you can still open these worlds with a normal jar. You do not have to modify your jar to open these worlds. So in that sense, the world is vanilla, and the jar is vanilla, The tool that created it is not vanilla, but everything about it still works without having to modify anything in the game code. So here comes a bit more nuance. If someone had a Let's Play world, and they said, I'm going to build this incredible structure in Minecraft, and they built it in MCEdit, is that cheating? They called it vanilla. They say that they have a vanilla LP world, and they go into MCEdit and build something and use it in their world. It is still vanilla, definitely still vanilla. We have not modified the jar file, we have not modified the world file in any way, but is it ethical to call that vanilla in that context? I would argue that it's not. Finally, we have actual modified jars. These are definitely not vanilla, but sometimes they can still produce world files that are vanilla. In this instance, modified jars that produce vanilla worlds, we have two types, along with an additional third type that produces non-vanilla worlds. But beginning with the first one that does produce vanilla worlds, we have mods such as Optifine or Too Many Items, and these are mods that supposedly don't add or remove anything to gameplay. But there is an example of a time when people thought one of these mods didn't change any gameplay, but it might have. The facts about this topic are very unclear, but there was a video released a few years ago showing how to make snow farms by using pistons extending horizontally on top of snow layers. The piston would delete the snow layer and drop a snowball item on the ground. But in the comments of this video, a lot of people said it worked, and a lot of people said it didn't work. The conclusion that was eventually drawn was that it only worked for people who had too many items installed. So this mod, that most people, I would assume pretty much everyone, assumed didn't affect gameplay, actually made a slight difference to this game mechanic. Other mods intentionally modify game mechanics, but still don't modify the world file in a way that makes the world not vanilla. These are mods like the X-ray mods, which significantly change aspects of gameplay, like mining, but when you have used this world, you can uninstall the X-ray mod and nothing in your world will break. Finally, we have the polar opposite of vanilla survival. These are mods that add or remove things from the world, such as adding blocks or items, or changing crafting recipes or spawning mechanics. Here we have mod packs like Feed the Beast, or mods like any of the mods that make up Feed the Beast, and not only is the jar file modified, but additionally, when you build a world in one of these using one of these mods, if you use any of these additional blocks or items that the mod provides, it then makes the world no longer a vanilla world, because in order to run that world, you need a non-vanilla jar. So hopefully this clears up some of the nuance about not only the term vanilla, but as far as the difference between a vanilla jar and a vanilla world, as well as some of the ethics of calling certain things vanilla in the game. I hope you enjoyed, and bling bling, hiss hiss, boom. I'll see you next time.